Hey everybody, happy Friday. Welcome to another edition of our Friday live Q&A. We're coming in a little earlier today just to make sure that we get it done. I'm going to start as usual with a couple of announcements, and then today we're going to be talking about shoulder pain in Shoulder Pain 101. In particular, why does it sometimes hurt, feel like you got punched in the arm? So the first announcement that I want to share is that we have sent out our email this week that our next community event, free community event, will be August 24th. That's a Thursday night at 7 p.m. right in our office. We are going to have a pretty informal format. However, it's going to be very valuable. So our functional health coaches, Charisse Goodrich and Allison Dondorfer, have agreed to come in for a live Q&A, basically. So they will both be present like a panel. And we're looking for people that are interested in coming and just picking their brain, asking questions to a certified functional health coach that you may be curious about. This can spread the gamut from hormone issues, stress issues, nutrition, lifestyle issues, questions. It really is going to be a very valuable opportunity to come and just learn. They are both extremely knowledgeable and are looking forward to dropping some knowledge on you guys that night. I will record as usual. Registration is required, so please let us know that you plan on attending. And the real plug, or the real reason that we're hoping you'll come, is one of the most common issues that they are studying as health coaches, and I am experiencing and hearing from many of my patients, is this issue of changing hormones for those of us females in the ages of 40 to 55, where we are stressed out, not sleeping, struggling with weight gain. The things that we've done in the past aren't working any longer for us, and this vicious cycle of the hormonal changes and what that means for us females, and in the perimenopausal, pre-peri and menopausal females. So if that is you, we really are hoping that you will attend. Of course, anyone can come and ask any question they want, but the reason that we're hoping that particular person will come is because we are very excited to be announcing and launching our very first ever 6-week course that we will be hosting at Fit for Life. It's going to be geared to just that person that I mentioned, the peri, pre, and postmenopausal female that is struggling to lose weight, fight off the belly fat, maintain muscle mass, sleep, manage stress, and move without getting hurt. This 6-week course is going to be starting September 12th, and it's going to be taught in together with Charisse Goodrich and Raven Anspaugh. So if you attend Thursday night's class, you are going to receive a discount on the 6-week course. That will be a paid course, and the details for all of that will be provided to those that come to the course. Good morning, Carol. You may want to go back and watch from the beginning, Carol, because I was sharing a little bit about the free class that we have coming up August 24th, and then a very exciting 6-week course that we're going to be running called Reclaim Your Life. That will be starting September 12th. So we're looking forward to sharing that opportunity with you guys, and that should be it for the announcement, so stay tuned for more information on that. I wanted to do a little bit of teaching on the shoulder today. It is one of my favorite things to treat when I'm not treating back pain in runners. It's a pretty interesting joint, and one of the things that commonly presents, or the way that patients commonly present, is they'll come and see us, and their main complaint is that they have this pain, not necessarily in the shoulder itself, but it's almost feels like you got punched in the arm. That may or may not happen specifically with our movements, but just like we talked about, and Raven has talked about, and I think I did too, a little bit, the difference between referred pain and radicular pain and localized pain. The referred pain pattern for the shoulder, for the rotator cuff in particular, is actually the lateral part of the outside part of the shoulder. So we'll do a little bit of discussion about anatomy of the shoulder and the rotator cuff, and I'm going to give you a couple of tips that we recommend for keeping your shoulders healthy. So your shoulder is a ball and socket joint. This is how I like to explain it to my patients. The rotator cuff is a group of muscles. They actually sit on the back side of your shoulder here, but they come through this little opening here from the back to the front, and they actually attach right in the front of this shoulder. And if you poke around a little bit, you can often find a tender little notch right here in the front of your shoulder. That's the attachment of the rotator cuff. It's also the attachment of the biceps tendon. So those things often get irritated together. So your shoulder is a ball and socket joint. The rotator cuff sits on the back of the shoulder blade, attaches in the front of the shoulder, and its job collectively, if you can imagine that this is my hand, as the head of that arm, your shoulder, goes down in the socket to raise your hand up. As you raise your hand up, let's start over, the head of that humerus is supposed to go down in the socket. All of the muscles of the rotator cuff on their own have one or two actions that they're primarily responsible for. But together, collectively, they are supposed to make sure that that head of the humerus drops down in the socket so that you can raise your arm up. When we live on this planet and we have forward head, rounded shoulder posture, the space up here at the top of the shoulder can become narrowed, which causes a natural impingement of those rotator cuff muscles. Many of you guys maybe have heard those terms, rotator cuff impingement. That happens a lot of times just from living on this planet and not taking time to stretch out the muscles in the front of your chest and keep your shoulders open. When the rotator cuff is no longer ideally positioned because of your posture changes, it's not going to be able to push the head of that humerus down in the socket like it should. When that happens, the muscle on top of the shoulder here, called your deltoid, who is supposed to work in conjunction very nicely, and I wanted to say symbiotically, I don't know if that's the right word, but that's what came to me. They're supposed to work together. So in a normal shoulder, the rotator cuff pushes the head of the humerus down, and the deltoid kind of has a natural compressive force to the shoulder to keep it in the socket. So if the rotator cuff isn't working right because they're small muscles and they get overused, and the mechanics of the shoulder change from our posture, and they're not pushing the head of the humerus down, but you're getting that compression from the deltoid because it takes over, then you're increasing that impingement, and you're really not seeing that inferior glide in the shoulder that you need. What does that mean? That's just the mechanics. I like to teach patients because I think it helps you understand. What that means is, in particular, some of the things that you're going to have trouble with if your rotator cuff is not functioning properly is you're going to have trouble with overhead motions, and you're going to have trouble reaching behind your back based on the mechanics of the joint. So that's a very brief anatomy and physiology lesson for the shoulder. So what can you do to keep the shoulder healthy? These are 3 tips I shared on a reel this week on Instagram and Facebook. Sorry, I'm outside and my little puppy's running around. Are you being good? You better be good. Okay, so because we talked about the attachment of the rotator cuff being in the front of the shoulder, this little notch here, it sits right underneath the collarbone, right? So in, again, normal anatomy, if you have your thumb pointed up, that little bony notch is going to be free and clear of that collarbone. So with your thumb pointed up, if you raise your arm up, you should have clearance anatomically and be able to raise that arm up without discomfort. And this isn't a normal healthy shoulder. if you turn that thumb down, you actually rotate this arm bone here, and it takes that little notch and it turns it underneath your collarbone. So if you want to give that a try, it'll work even on you with a healthy shoulder. So the first thing you're going to do with your thumb up is raise your arm straight up, and you see how high that arm goes. And then if you take your thumb and you turn it down, and then you try to raise your arm up with your thumb turned down, you'll see that it doesn't feel as good, and you're not going to get as high, and that's because of the normal mechanics of the shoulder. So tip number one is anytime you're moving that shoulder, anytime you're moving that arm, especially if you're going to go over your head, thumbs up. Tip number one for the shoulder is thumbs up. Tip number two is if you are going to be doing anything over your head, let's say you want to lift weights and you're trying to get stronger, a very common move that people will do is this overhead press. And it's a good exercise for strengthening the upper part of your shoulders. However, because of all of those things I told you with what happens with normal wear and tear and aging, I always recommend staying pretty light when you're lifting over your head. So the shoulder press is a very good exercise for lifting. You want to make sure the thumbs are up, but then you're going to want to keep the weight a little bit lighter than you might do if you were lifting another shoulder exercise or your biceps and your triceps. I rarely go over 10 pounds if I'm lifting over my head. So keep it light if you're going to be lifting over your head. That's tip number two. And then tip number three is a very, very common mechanism of injury that we hear patients report is that the onset of their shoulder pain started when they reached into the back of their car from the front seat, lifted up their purse or briefcase, and brought it around to the front. I don't know if I can say exactly why that's a common mechanism of injury, but that is one very common way that we have heard patients who were previously not feeling any shoulder pain will report an onset of pain in the shoulder. So those are my 3 tips for keeping your shoulders healthy, with a little bit of anatomy for the shoulder and what the importance of keeping your rotator cuff healthy is. So thumbs up when you're moving those shoulders, light weights on lifting overhead press exercise, and don't reach into the back seat and bring your purse or your briefcase forward. Some of the other things that we like to do for the shoulder are to make sure we work on posture, as like all of our patients, and keep the chest open so that you can encourage the natural alignment and the best mechanics for the rotator cuff muscles. So I hope you found that helpful. Thanks for tolerating the outside and the distractions, but it's too beautiful to be inside today. So hi Deborah, thanks for watching. I hope you guys found this valuable. If you have questions about the shoulder in particular, you're experiencing some issues yourself, feel free to send us a message and we will get back to you. You are always welcome to share your own questions if you have questions for Friday's live Q&A. And if you're interested in attending August 24th's free class, the community workshop with our health coaches, it would be a great time to come, see our new space. We've got some painting and carpeting that have gone in, and meet our health coaches and have an opportunity to receive a pretty steep discount on this 6-week course, especially if you are a pre-peri or menopausal female that is struggling to keep your life on track. Hence the title of the course being Reclaim Your Life. So thank you guys so much for watching. Happy Friday, and we'll talk to you guys soon.